Blake Coleman's tenure with the Calgary Flames is underappreciated. Let's give Pickles his due.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Flames, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. My name is Ryan G. I am a lifelong play-by-play broadcaster and a Flames fan based out of the Pacific Northwest. Started rooting for the Flames back in 2004 when Peter Maher, the longtime play-by-play voice of the Calgary Flames, kind of brought me into the Flames world, and have been routinely watching 40-plus Flames games over the last couple of decades. Flames return home to face the Kraken today. Also, Blake Coleman has been the best Flames player this season. I'm just so eager to kind of sing the praises of Blake Coleman in the show, and 3 keys to victory, 2 against the Kraken coming up. That is what we will chat about on today's edition of Locked On Flames. We start with Seattle, Calgary, first meeting of the year between these two teams, and it's a prime opportunity for the Calgary Flames to kind of churn things around. They don't have to make that drastic 180. That's something Calgary had to do earlier in the season because of the way that they started the 2025-26 campaign. But this is a critical stretch of games to decide whether Calgary is going to kind of turn toward going after a #1 pick and not worrying about making the postseason, or having a chance as the calendar turns into the new year to really make that push. And the Kraken are a team that really might help them do that. Just 1-8-1 in their last few games. The Kraken are reeling right now, and they're only scoring about 2 goals per game, whereas Calgary is closer to the 3 goals per game average over the same last 10-game stretch. Calgary with a 5-4-1 mark. And this is a weekend where the Flames have an opportunity to go up against a team that just doesn't score a lot of goals, and especially in that last 10 games. And Calgary, with having a solid duo in net, this kind of feels like it'd be a Devin Cooley game. That's what I felt like going in before projected lineups. I think you'd have Dustin play against VGK on Saturday, which is a much more potent team. There's just not a lot of scoring, like I said, from the Kraken in that stretch. Vince Dunn, 5 goals, 14 assists for the Kraken, is kind of the leading target for Seattle when it comes to trying to get the puck into the back of the nets. And so that will be a challenge that the Calgary defense has to take on. Chandler Stevenson, 3 goals and added 3 assists over the last 10 games as well. And this is a point of emphasis for Seattle. Again, it feels like the Kraken haven't been scoring, and so that was addressed by Lane Lambert, the head coach of the Seattle Kraken, with reporters, thanks to Seattle Kraken on X.
Certainly our opportunities are there. We created a ton of opportunities last night, and we have to continue to do so. Lighthearted, you have to move forward. There's no other way around it. What's happened has happened. What's done is done, and you got to move forward and look forward to the next game, which is Calgary tomorrow, and we've got 4 divisional games coming up here before Christmas. So big stretch of games here on this road trip for us.
And Lambert talking about the opportunity the Kraken have. Granted, it's on the road against all these Pacific Division opponents. This is a huge opportunity for Calgary, although it just feels like it doesn't really matter what Calgary is going to be doing in terms of the Pacific Division race. It really does seem to focus around the idea of just making it into the wild card. Brandon Montour is not expected to play in this game. Had a fight against Brent Burns of Colorado in the Kraken's last game. That was on Tuesday night at Climate Pledge Arena. And, you're taking on a team that has a tremendous record in what Colorado has been able to do this year. And Lambert says they do not expect Montour to play. Said, quote, "I would expect him to potentially join the team here at some point during the trip," end quote. But that is all that's expected of Montour. So you have Seattle down one of their best defensemen. Calgary has been scoring better than Seattle. And when we get to keys of victory coming up later in the show, that's something that I'm going to be watching for tonight during the game, is how well Calgary can get out in front early. That's something that Calgary hasn't done great, even during a stretch of time when they've been playing better hockey. But you're looking back to the Detroit game, a 4-0 hole. And so getting out early and scoring, losing at San Jose 6-3. Calgary ended up falling behind 2-0 in that game. So we'll talk more about that coming up later in the show. And then again, what's after the Seattle game is so critical to the scope of what I see Calgary needing to do in this game. And that's just the fact that they're playing the Golden Knights coming up on Saturday. And VGK lost to New Jersey 2-1 on Tuesday. So, it might be an opportunity for Calgary too, if VGK is still in a situation where they might be on a little bit of a downturn. Might be the right time to play Vegas, but that's looking ahead to Saturday, and we'll cover more of that on Friday's edition of Locked On Flames. So it's Seattle and Calgary coming up today in the Sea of Red. Excited to see what can happen between these two teams as the Calgary Flames are trying to get to 6-4-1 in their last 11 games. The games against the Seattle Kraken, especially in Seattle, have always been pretty interesting because I'm actually a Kraken season ticket holder. I go to a lot of the games in the Pacific Northwest since I live in Oregon. Clearly a much easier jaunt for me up to Seattle than it is to Calgary. But until last year, I haven't been to a Flames game in Seattle that the Flames had lost. So arguably, Seattle's had more success when it comes to playing the Flames in Calgary than they necessarily had when they've played each other in Seattle. So I always found that kind of interesting. And so nothing is assured by any means, even though the Kraken have been struggling by and large over the last few games. Doesn't mean that it's not possible for them to get that victory. I think that's kind of assured of the Calgary Flames fans this season, which is the fact that really nothing is out of the question when it comes to getting Calgary victories this year. You really have to imagine that Calgary is going to have no easy games. And so even though Seattle's 1-8-1 in those last 10, this is a huge opportunity. Also worth noting too, thanks to NHL Flames on X, it is the Flames Better Halves hosting their Favorite Things basket raffle. So if you're going to the game and you happen to be participating in that raffle, definitely shout us out on social media, mention us, and we would love to see some of your pictures. The proceeds from that are going to be supporting ALS Alberta. So pretty cool stuff there. One quick footnote, not related to the Calgary Flames and Seattle game, but according to TSN, the Toronto Maple Leafs now interested in Rasmus Andersson in terms of a potential trade target for the Calgary Flames. Awesome defenseman. So just another team kind of in that list. Nothing really surprising per se there, because you kind of expect Calgary to be potentially trading players, and Rasmus is not only one of their best players from a contractual standpoint to possibly deal, but certainly has been playing at a high level this year, and that's important. It's also worth mentioning that he's not the only one playing at a high level. I give that nod to Blake Coleman, and I have a Blake Coleman appreciation post when this edition of Locked On Flames continues. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what making live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment is yours for the taking. And that's what we look forward to every NFL Sunday. It's going to be a big weekend in the NFL. You're right at those mid-December games when everything is on the line in terms of playoff qualification, playoff seeding. I'm a lifelong Denver Broncos fan, and that's certainly going to be the case when the Broncos host the Jaguars on Sunday. And that game has a 3-point line over the course of the week. The over-under is in the 40s, 45.5 last I looked. And that's a number that it seems like favors Denver to possibly push it past that number, considering the fact that Denver has been over that total for or rather 2 of the last 3 games. So Bo Nix is playing better, seems to be more confident and consistent. And then, of course, the Denver defense has been stout. That might be one thing to consider, though, is how good Denver's defense has been. Maybe that will affect that over-under. And regardless of what happens before the game, that's where live betting is such a key to enjoying your NFL Sunday, because live betting's best when the game starts to shift. Maybe Denver's defense is stout, and all of a sudden you want to try to see if you can make a particular bet on something that's happening in that moment. What's going to happen with a player prop as guys start to heat up? Maybe the next drive result is something you want to bet on because Denver's defense is playing so well. So just some things to keep in mind, as live betting is definitely the best when the game starts to shift. And if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks so much for being here with Locked On Flames and making us your first listen of every single day, as we want you to be in the Everydayer Club. That's right. You already make us your first listen every day. Now you have a chance to go in to the next level and make it ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Flames with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. You can go to lockedonflames.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're already an Everydayer Club member, let me know in the YouTube comments. You can send us a post on social media. Would love to see that you are out there joining the Everydayer Club and being part of something special with Locked On Flames, as it's been a fun first week being in this chair, new host of Locked On Flames, and someone who I just can't for some reason get out of my head is Blake Coleman. I mean, I feel like this is the right time to give a Blake Coleman appreciation post, considering the fact that Blake could certainly be a piece that the Calgary Flames ultimately send away by the end of this season. Doesn't seem like it's the most for sure bet. Again, focusing back towards players like Rasmus Andersson, Nazem Kadri. Those are guys who feel like they're more likely the pieces that Calgary could send out the door if they needed to. But Blake Coleman has been exceptional over his tenure with the Calgary Flames, and arguably the last few seasons, certainly this season, with a team most 10 goals. Blake Coleman just has been almost a reliable, consistent skater, and one of those guys who brings a lot of that strong defensive play from the forward position. Just clearly has a strong reputation on the team. I know the Calgary Flames have been following Blake a little bit this year with their web series, The Chase, but he's on pace for a 6th straight 30-point season. He had his career best 54 back in 2023-24. That was when he also totaled a career high 30 goals. But I also like him because this year he's had the 3rd best shot percentage for the Calgary Flames. He's right behind Frost and Hubie. And, you know, when you get in the shot percentage, you're kind of looking at small margins anyway. So it's not like, his percentage just being 1% back of those other two is drastically different. But when it comes to consistency, that's one of the reasons I like Blake Coleman. There's not really a night when I'm watching a Flames game going like, where's Blake tonight? What's Blake doing? And there's those small intangibles too. You know, we're talking about a shot percentage. He gets a good amount of consistent volume at the net. It feels like on a night in, night out basis, Blake Coleman's totaling 4 shots. And so it doesn't seem like you're ever wondering exactly where Blake is. And in reality, that's kind of panned out. Clearly the Flames' best game-winning goal scorer, arguably the Flames, or not even the Flames, one of the NHL's best shorthanded goal scorers. He leads the team in both of those categories this year. He just seems to be one of those reliable guys who's never overly flashy, but certainly does what's needed. I found this stat interesting too, and it's going to play into what we talk about coming up in our third segment about the keys to victory tonight. But he has 14 game-opening goals in his 350-plus games with the Calgary Flames, and that's 4%. But, I mean, that can be a huge difference maker, right? When you can score early in any of these games, it gives your team a little bit of relief, and everything that can happen from that point forward doesn't have as much of an impact. And Blake Coleman gives you that more often than not. He's just one of the best early game goal scorers for Calgary, and that can even be out of negative situations. Calgary's area of shine this season when it comes to being a man up or a man down has been on the penalty kill unit. Calgary's power play unit has not been up to the task, dead last in the NHL, but their penalty kill unit has been much better. And then when you get a guy like Coleman who can score out of those situations, that is a huge asset for Calgary. And I mean, this is a guy who I saw this note on his Wikipedia, and it just made me smile. I mean, he's somebody who has scoring in his blood. He was a USHL scoring title winner back in 1999, 2000, or 2001, 2002. Either way, like, he ended up totaling 90 points. He was the first player to surpass 90 points since 2001, 02. That's what I read. So not when he was playing. That would have been far too early. But yeah, most points scored in a season when he totaled 34 goals, 58 assists since 99, 2000. So, I mean, this is a guy who has scoring in his blood, and yeah, just someone that I felt like needed to get some due, considering the fact that we may see Blake Coleman outside a Flames uniform sooner rather than later. I certainly don't hope that it happens this season, but because it's a possibility, I kind of felt like it was time for a Blake Coleman appreciation post. And yeah, we'll see what happens, how big he can be in the game coming up against the Seattle Kraken in Calgary tonight, 7:00 Mountain Time. And that's a great opportunity for us to share our keys to victory. How do the Calgary Flames come away with a win? We're talking mid-December. We're talking a good stretch of play for Calgary. How can they use this upcoming homestand? A whole bunch of games, except for one trip to Edmonton to end 2025 for Calgary. How do the Flames capitalize on that opportunity if they want to make a playoff push? It starts with 3 keys to victory against the Kraken. That's next on this edition of Locked On Flames. The holidays are amazing, but they can also get overwhelming fast. Travel, gifts, parties, year-end expenses. It's really easy to lose track of your money this time of year, and that's exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer for me. If you want to keep your finances under control this holiday season, you need to be using Monarch. Rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025, Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple dashboard. And those dashboards can be shared between you and a partner. You have someone else in your household who needs to know about your finances. You can do shared dashboards. There's shared goals. It just eliminates, or at least lessens, a lot of those, wait, how much did we spend kind of conversations. It's the Christmas season for me and my family, and every year we have used credit card rewards that we've accumulated over the course of the year with one of our credit cards to be able to pay for the bulk of our Christmas expenses. We have 2 kids in our house, and so we want to make sure that there's some things under the tree for them. And being able to track what our budget is for the holiday season is super helpful. You can do that through Monarch with the holiday spending category. You can see exactly what's left in your gift and travel budget in real time. That's such a key, because sometimes you're going someplace for the holiday season. And so Monarch makes it super easy to see not only what's left with how much you've spent on potential gifts, but also what you need to travel as well. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com and code LOCKEDONNHL. Thank you for making Locked On Flames your first listen every day. Thanks to everybody who's been tuning in on YouTube and through our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. It's been so much fun to be in the chair for this first week of Locked On Flames. And we asked on our YouTube page, if you could choose right now, who or which direction would you want the Flames to go? Would you want them to tank, or would you want them to make a playoff run? And I admire those who are saying, I think the logical part of me thinks that the Flames should tank, but I don't want the Flames to tank. I'm the same kind of way, right? I'm a guy who doesn't want to see a team go for the top draft pick necessarily, but at the same time, sometimes you have to kind of do that to make that switch to a generational talent, and that's something that I definitely want the Calgary Flames to have, and that's something we're going to get into in future episodes of Locked On Flames, is exactly what kind of game-changing talent those top 3 picks that are out there in the entry draft, how they've panned out over the years, because we definitely talked about that earlier. If you want to catch up on some past episodes of Locked On Flames, we talked about that with San Jose having Macklin Celebrini and how he's the talk of the NHL, and that's something that Calgary would likely want to have on its roster. I want to get into 3 keys to victory against Seattle, but there's one thing that I left out in that Blake Coleman appreciation post, and that is his coach talking about him. 2 different sound clips from NHL Flames on X with Ryan Huska praising Blake Coleman.
I mean, even in Nashville, a night where I thought we were not very good, Blake was. And I feel like his game, his all-round game is where it normally is, but I feel like he's got another gear right now, if that makes any sense. He looks faster to me. He's been very hungry, and I think he's taken it personally that, we need people to lead by example. And I think over the last little while, Blake's done an unreal job at that.
For me, it's a little hockey sense. He knows where to go, and he's very competitive, so he has zero fear in his game. And if that means he's going to crash into somebody to try to score, he's going to do that, where other people in certain situations may be hesitant to go to the areas that he's got no problem going to. So I think he thinks the game really well. He understands where the puck is going to go, and again, when you throw that no fear factor in for him, it allows him to be in positions to score goals.
Head coach Ryan Huska talking about Blake Coleman, and it's relevant as we get into our 3 keys of victory tonight against the Kraken, and that starts with capitalizing on early opportunities. Blake could be a reason that Calgary is able to do that. Maybe the Flames get into a situation where they have to go on the penalty kill early. Maybe it's one of those patented Pickles shorthanded goals, always a possibility, but Seattle's 18th in goals against average. Calgary is 13th. And again, if you're going to try to make a playoff push, it feels like those are the types of situations that Calgary has to take advantage of, is when they're playing teams that have worse goaltending statistics than your team. You have to start beating them. Again, Calgary is about 13th in goals against average. And so that leaves, almost 20 teams below them that you should be trying to target victories against. This is a Calgary team that you may not get too many wins against top 5, top 10 teams in the NHL, but can you start beating those teams who are trailing you? Because Calgary, one thing we can hang our hat on this year for the Flames is how good their goaltending has been, especially Devin Cooley in the starts that Devin has made. But then Dustin Wolf's trajectory is kind of up and to the right. Wasn't at the start of the season as good as he was in his 2024-25 campaign, but Wolfie starting to ramp up, right? And so if you can get that Venza challenging type play from someone like Dustin Wolf, then we'll see what happens in this particular season after his debut campaign last year, that kind of play that he had a year ago. Second key to victory, focusing in on rewarding good goaltending. Speaking of Wolf and Cooley, how do you reward your goalkeepers, goaltenders, when you are making tremendous saves? How can you get out of those situations and into rush situations like Calgary did in the game on Tuesday against San Jose? That was the highlight against the Sharks, is how well Calgary could rush. And that's not necessarily something that Blake Coleman pointed out, for example, is part of the Calgary game plan per se, but taking advantage of those opportunities when they are there is definitely important. And Seattle's also kind of middle of the road when it comes to power play percentage. So with a solid PK unit like Calgary has, how do you create opportunities out of a power play unit that may not be one of the best, and Calgary might have some opportunities out of that. I think that's definitely a key to the game coming up in Calgary tonight. And then lastly, beep, beep, beep. Revive the power play. Clear. Feel like we're putting, I'm always going to say this word wrong, defibrillator on the Calgary power play. It's just not good, and it hasn't been good. There's been no power play goals in the last 3 games. Calgary had 2 man advantage goals against Buffalo, but those were the only 2 in the last 5 games. I mean, this is not new information. It's just a reality when it comes to keys to victory. When you're playing teams like Seattle that's won 8-1 in their last 10 games, you need to try to find ways to capitalize on moments that maybe are easier per se against teams that aren't as great in their PK units. And so I would love to see Calgary find a way to get 1 power play goal tonight and not make us as Flames fans dread when Calgary goes on a power play, because it just feels like we're prepping for disappointment, and that's not a fun situation. And so big things coming up in this matchup with the Kraken. Those are my 3 keys to victory: capitalize on early chances, reward good goaltending, and revive the power play. And again, it's the Flames Better Halves favorite things basket raffle tonight in the Scotiabank Saddledome. So if you happen to be there, love to share some photos with us. Find us on social media, and certainly let us know in the comments on YouTube as well. We'll be ramping up all of that too. I'll try to find a way to connect with y'all more on social media as we kind of build the show. Right now, just excited to be on the air with you every single day so you can make Locked on Flames your first listen of every single day. We will be back on Friday, talk on the heels of the game against the Kraken, look a little bit ahead to the game against VGK over the weekend. So that is on the docket when we rejoin you on Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast. Let's try to get ourselves to 700 YouTube subscribers in the next few months. Again, we're just back on the air. Thank you to everybody who's been commenting on YouTube and letting us know that you're finding Locked on Flames. And of course, if you need the last minute holiday gift, or someone keeps asking you what you want, we'll make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through our unique link, lockedonflames.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. I am Ryan G. Thanks for having fun with us. We'll talk to you again soon for more Locked On Flames.